Card prices are bearish at the moment, and I've spoken about it a number of times on this channel. Some of us operating in this space for a long time is still squeaking profits either through flipping or getting value on grading submissions. However, for a lot of other investors out there, the majority of their holdings are currently in the red, or some might call it underwater. Which brings me to a question that might be possibly lurking on your mind. Is it time to hit the reset button? Welcome guys, Cardboss here, where we talk about cards, money investing. If you're a fan of this sort of content, be sure to subscribe to this channel and stay connected for more content like this in the future. Alright, let's go. So before we address the question today, let's talk about what is an actual definition of a reset. So let's rewind to the very beginning where, say, you had $1,000 and you decided to buy some sports cards because you, like many other aspiring sports card investors out there, decided that sports cards was the way to go to generate some wealth, be it in the short term or the long term. Here's the problem for most investors who entered this market during the pandemic period is that these groups are not necessarily sophisticated investors who are likely receiving their education from social media or YouTube as part of their decision-making process. Now, this is not necessarily wrong or false narrative at a time, but we all know that YouTube is extremely hype-driven, and the core motivation of these channels is to drive audience to watch their content and not necessarily helping you to make money. But let's not discuss that. It's all in the past now, as you are $1,000 in for this example. Now, in the last 12 to 18 months, we can assume that some of you may be bought, or sold some cards and profited in between, reinvested those profits and continue rolling. Some of you might just bought cards from start and still sitting and waiting. Some of you got a bit late, bought cards at higher prices that we spoke of in early 2021, only to be massively underwater today. So regardless of the situation, those who are holding a significant portion of their inventory at this moment are not selling because prices are down and likely are not selling because there might not be any financial motivation to do so, for example, to pay loans or rent. So what's likely to happen is that everyone is just sitting and waiting around, hoping for some magical rain to fall into the sports card market and make everything flourish again. Will it? Sure, it's possible. When? Who knows? And waiting it out is perfectly fine if you have a ton of better things to do in life other than monitoring at charts and graphs daily. But depending on your holding and what other opportunities are out there in the sports or non-sports cards or even non-collectible space for that matter, are you better off to just liquidating your position, i.e. hitting that big red reset button? Now, I've got you thinking. Here's where the challenge is. Number one, the financial problem. Of course, we all dislike losing money, and the idea of taking a loss, small or big, after making such a financial commitment months ago seemed like a foolish proposition. Second, the opportunity cost. It's not like there are a lot of other spaces or investment opportunities that are buzzing and enabling massive returns at the moment. Even Bitcoin is struggling, and Ethereum is quite on a yo-yo. The S&P 500 index is trotting along quite well, but it has been doing so consistently over the last decade. So if you decide to park your money on sports cards as opposed to the index, you probably had a notion that the return would supersede the index in a short or medium term. And lastly, will this bearish market continue to be stagnant or even worse, trend lower, thus compounding your already bad situation? So let's explore these points a bit further. On the financials, it really depends on your own financial situation. One thing that has changed compared to the 2008 financial crisis is that a lot of people who have invested in these markets are or have been utilizing true disposable income, and thus situations like this, their daily livelihood is not impacted, meaning that they have their finances sorted out to pay for important things like food and rent. So really the challenge is to take the hit in the chin and to accept the lack of judgment or mistiming of the market to make those X losses. And to be honest, there is no negative to this aside from getting your ego a big hit. After all, it's money that you were prepared to go sideways or down from the very beginning. So there's no such thing as guaranteed investment return, especially in a market as speculative as sports cards. So if you guys wake up one morning and have a sense of realization that it's okay to move on, it's perfectly all right. But hold that thought for now as we go along to other points. Second, I mentioned opportunity cost. So money stuck in the sports card portfolio potentially can be used for other investment products today. All true, but you have to examine and consider several factors. First, do you have or obtain enough knowledge on those products that you're looking into to avoid similar investment losses that you're taking a hit for your sports cards today? Again, if your level of education on investing is solely reliant on social media or YouTube, this vicious cycle might just repeat itself, and it would be painful if you double down on your losses instead of recouping them. Based on my observation, markets outside the sports world is indeed flat in general, but that doesn't mean you can't find ways to earn positive return as compared to your sports card sitting idle underwater. And the second point actually leads to the third point, which, what's your own personal take on where the sports card market is heading? No one has a crystal ball, and we all can come up with our own opinions and conclusions. Personally, I think the market will eventually climb, but it will need several different turning points and not just a simple miracle rain. Am I confident to say that this will happen sooner or later? Well, at this juncture, no. I think the sports card market is in a phase of organic correction, both up and down. As good as the rookie class is this season, it hasn't generated enough buzz like all the class before them. So there isn't much feel-good factor around the league at the moment aside from Stephen Curry. Alright, so taking everything I just covered, is it the right time to hit the reset button? Personally, without a strong viable option to move my capital into, it's really difficult to absorb losses today when the simplest thing you can do is to sit and wait it out. Of course, no one really knows how long the wait will take, but every move beyond your skills and experience in other markets can equally be risky as well. I touched on Formula 1 a little, Marvel a bit more, and of course these markets have their strong following, but it's not the same as the 2021 sports card boom. PSA reopening their regular service might change the landscape a little, but it's too early to tell, and maybe you have to wait another 3 to 6 months before we see some data on this. Now, alternatively, you can do more traditional things like paying down your mortgage or invest in a rental property. It's not as exciting, but I keep emphasizing the point where you need to disengage emotions when it comes to investing. Sports cards are fun, but if you aren't a collector, these cards have to be treated as inventory rather than fixed assets. And to answer a question that might come up in the comment is Cardboard hitting the reset button? Truthfully, I'm seriously considering it at the moment. Alright, thanks for watching guys. Cardboard's out.